And we are back with more clips that would send shivers down your spine. Would you ever believe that there was a time when breaking the feet of young children to allow them to fold and appear smaller was a symbol of high class and more desirability? Yes, it was.
Lotus feet. From the young age of 5 to 8, girls in Tang Dynasty China up into the 1900s would have their feet intentionally broke and folded up into custom shoes. In these times, the smaller feet were seen as more attractive. They were also seen as high class, so even the poorest of poor would break their young daughter's feet just to seem high class. The big toe was left alone, while the other 4 toes are folded underneath the foot and wrapped in a cloth to heal in the position. And I use the term heal loosely, because this practice causes excruciating pain for their entire lives. In the 1800s, the practice became less and less popular, because of the pain and the inability to work and just walk normally. In 1911, binding your feet in this fashion was outlawed in China, but the widespread practice didn't officially end until 1949. Meaning, there are still women alive with these small, historic, golden lotus feet. Either way, it's nice to see cultural norms move away from breaking your daughter's feet, just to seem high class.
Do you know the background story of PTSD? What do you know of the shell shock? Find out here.
The history of shell shock. Now officially named PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder in 1980, despite its more recent discoveries, it's well documented, even in ancient times. This mental health condition arises when a person experiences or witnesses one or more traumatic events, most prominently occurring in war accidents, but also includes things like natural disasters, terrorism, or violent assaults. The symptoms include things like constant fear, stress, anxiety, and reliving your traumatic experience in flashbacks and nightmares. Also things like being jumpy, restless, easily angered, and not being able to sleep. During the 1800s, shell shock was seen as a sign of weakness and only affected the feeble-willed. The cure was public ridicule. The world wars were extreme cases, where over half the enlisted soldiers were discharged with overstimulated nerves, going home with things like nightmares, tremors, anxiety, impaired sight, hearing loss, severe concussions, and the list goes on. It's safe to say, with today's proper diagnosis, therapy, and medication available along with public understanding, the past was a horrible place to have PTSD.
What do COVID-19, the death of Queen Elizabeth, and the event of 9/11 all have in common? That there were predictions, amongst many others, of future occurrences published in 1555. Who made these predictions?
This man was able to see the future. Michel de Nostradamus, aka Nostradamus, was a 16th century astrologer and physician who famously published a book in the year 1555 called Les Prophéties, a collection of 942 poetic quatrains allegedly predicting future events. Well, anyone can predict the future, but the difference with Nostradamus was that his predictions actually came true. Amongst other things, he predicted Adolf Hitler, the events of 9/11, the French Revolution, and even the atomic bomb. He also predicted that in the year 2020, a plague will come from the east, and unfortunately, it did come to pass. More recently, Nostradamus predicted the exact age and year that the late Queen Elizabeth would pass, and his prophecies were right again, with some of his future prophecies talking of a devastating world war. Some people hope that he might be wrong, but whatever it is, you can't deny that.
What happened to the miracle weapon that the Germans were working on? We are pretty sure that the bell did not just disappear into thin air.
What happened to Die Glocke? It was rumored that during the war, the Germans were working on a miracle weapon called Die Glocke, or the bell. It stood around 15 feet tall and was said to be housed in a military facility known as Die Rises, underneath a circular stone structure called the hinge. A hieroglyphic decorated the bottom of the Nazi bell, and when in operation, 2 cylinders within the weapon structure were filled with a substance called serum 525, which created some sort of advanced anti-gravity effect, as the bell was known to be chained to the hinge to prevent it from flying off. People have claimed that the bell allowed the user to access visions of the past and future from the inner surface, warping time and space, while others claim that it could create solid crystals of any tissue or living creature exposed to it, potentially eliminating the enemy's entire army. However, when the Germans lost, all the technology disappeared and only the facilities it was created in were left, leaving many thinking, who has the bell? And
would you believe that there could be skulls made from pure crystals? In 1926, a woman would come across one of these crystal skulls But what happens when you come across one? Find out in this video.
Where did these crystal skulls come from? In 1926, explorer Anna Mitchell Hedges made the most historical discovery of all time. As she was crawling through an ancient Mayan tunnel, she noticed something shiny and picked up a perfectly carved crystal skull. Immediately, 300 workers who were living in the area bowed down to her. The crystal skulls are a human-shaped skull carved out of a single piece of quartz, which experts say is nearly impossible for humans to create at that point in time. According to myths from ancient Aztecs and Mayan tribes, these skulls were given to them from the star children who descended from the sky. And when all 13 crystals are brought together, all wisdom they contain will be released, and a new era will begin. But, till today, people still don't know.
Do you know that your Google search history is a great way to catch you if you're doing something illegal? In this clip, we get to see a criminal convicted based on the history of his Google searches. And no, it was the right call.
What are some Google searches that have led to people's arrests? Today we're going to talk about the dentist who was just arrested for putting poison in his wife's protein shakes. And I cover all sorts of spooky and true crime stuff on this page, so follow along for more. On March 6, Angela Craig went to the hospital for dizziness and severe headaches. She would eventually pass away as her symptoms got worse. But what we know now is that her husband, James Craig, was slipping both arsenic and cyanide into her protein shakes. And part of the reason we know this is because of what James was looking up on his work computer weeks before his wife's death. Searches like how to make poison, undetectable poisons, and 5 undetectable poisons that show no sign of foul play, as if there was a fun listicle about it. And the shocking part of all of this is allegedly not the first time that James had tried to poison his wife. He allegedly poisoned her 5 or 6 years ago, and she found out. And it's now believed that he was doing all this so that he could run away with another woman.
Maybe not all noises should be checked out. For certain, these cops feel the same way. What would be your reaction if you were anywhere near this scene?
These are the scariest things ever caught on camera.
Okay, so these cops got a call of noise complaints coming from a cemetery, and they ended up going out there and checking it out themselves.
But when the cops got there, something extremely disturbing happened. They heard the screams of some kind of ghost, and it sounded so disturbing.
This is something straight out of a horror movie, and imagine this happened to you.
Do you know that one of the scariest places to be when you find yourself in Nevada is the tunnels of Sand Hill Road? What makes it scary though? Find out here.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 28. Nevada. The Tunnels of Sand Hill Road. Found between Charleston Boulevard and Sahara Avenue in Las Vegas, you will find Sand Hill Road. The eerie flood tunnels underneath Sand Hill Road can be truly terrifying, especially if you go at night. According to rumors, visitors to the tunnels have heard mysterious voices, and some late-night explorers to the site have even reported having their cars getting chased down along the adjacent dirt road by the spirit of a crazy old woman who disappears suddenly as they depart the area in total fear. Some speculate it's one of the 2 restful spirits of a couple that were killed in a car crash long ago, but when you're talking about Vegas, who knows? Anything could have happened.
Have you heard the story of the poisoned girl at Centennial Hall? This is one of the top scariest tales to tell in the United States, and Centennial Hall takes a spot at places you do not want to be in Nebraska.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 27. Nebraska. The Poisoned Girl at Centennial Hall. When locals are asked to choose the most haunted place in their state, Centennial Hall is a no-brainer. People claim that there are multiple ghosts roaming the halls. But the creepiest story of Centennial Hall originates in the 1940s, when it used to be a high school. The story states that a student was playing her clarinet, suffered a heart attack, and died. It was later discovered that her instrument was poisoned. Now, people claim to feel cold spots, hear disembodied music, and have witnessed an empty rocking chair start to move.
In Montana, United States, there is a story of a sacrifice cliff. But what exactly does this mean, and how did the cliff get this name? Find out in this clip.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 26, Montana. The Story of Sacrifice Cliff. The story of Sacrifice Cliff comes from an old Native American legend. Two members of the Crow tribe arrived in their village from a trip to find that almost everyone there had been infected with smallpox and died. So heartbroken about the loss of their loved ones, the two decided to blindfold their horses and rode off of the cliff to join their tribe on the other side. Sacrifice Cliff is visible from almost anywhere in Billings, so it's sad and a bit spooky to think about the story while the cliff is looming over the entire city.
What should you do with a haunted item? This clip shows you what exactly you should do to a haunted item.
Ever wonder what people do with haunted items they no longer want in their home? Or do you have a haunted item you want to get rid of? Not sure what to do? Listen up. Cursed and haunted items can take many forms, from your common household doll, cursed paintings, antiques, family heirlooms, or just about anything else. Or maybe you were lucky enough to inherit a haunted item. Well, if you feel an item has had a negative effect on your life, home, or family, remove it from your life as quickly as possible. Think about placing this item outdoors, in a shed or a garage, in a sealed bin, until you have time to deal with it properly. Moving it away from your and your family's energy will help a lot. Being in a locked situation or away from you will reduce its negative impact on your life. You're probably thinking, how is a locked box going to hold a spirit that can walk through walls? It has more to do with the intent of actually locking and sealing it. Make sure you do it with confidence and conviction. Try to avoid all contact with it by wearing gloves or wrapping it up in something, maybe a towel. The next step is getting it out of your life for good. This will often vary depending on your beliefs, what the item is actually made of, and its overall size. If you happen to be one of those people who believe you need to destroy the item, then I would suggest burning as the purification process. Avoid burning plastics or anything that's going to have a dangerous chemical when it's burned. If you decide to burn it, make sure that you let the fire go out naturally. Don't put it out yourself. Let it cool down and pour salt on the ashes. Salt is a spiritually purifying substance and helps get rid of any remaining evil still left in the item. Mix the salt and ashes together in one container and bury it in a remote location. Another option is to throw it in a living, moving body of water, like a river. The fast-moving source of water will help purify the item. Be sure to put it where no one else will find it. A popular but much more dangerous way of doing this is cleansing the item, thus releasing it into the atmosphere. If you're a religious person, you can douse it in holy water. Otherwise, use the river effect. If you like what you hear, hit the follow button and check out the merch link in bio.
What is the scariest story about where you reside? Let us know.